Great Scott! Great Scott! Great Scott!
Hello everyone and welcome to another fabulous edition of Great Scott. I'm Scotty V. It's good to see you. A few weeks ago I had posed a question as to why it seems that in today's society Batman is somehow more popular or cooler or more relevant than Superman. I still haven't received really an answer that I like. I understand that he's got a cool car, he's got cool gadgets, he can get any woman he wants even though he's not really interested, and he's got lots of money, all things that many of us would love to have. Mr. Fabian Wood wrote to me. He gave his own explanation. He believes that it's because of the monologues that Batman has in his books. He's not read every issue of Superman or Batman, but what he says is that what he has read led him to the conclusion that Bruce is more relatable and cooler than Clark, because Superman comes off as too aloof and impersonal in his books due to the lack of telegraphed thought processes of The Last Son of Krypton. Batman's monologues happen a lot in his books. So we get his frame of mind, his MO, his impetus for even the most minute of actions. We're privy to all of that. Originally, this was achieved through Robin, which is why he was created, and subsequently Alfred, and so on. But then came the caption monologues and thought bubbles, and we were invited to experience the turmoil and inner conflicts that plagued Batman. His fears and intelligence are articulated in these boxes, and they clutter the panels on every page, which his visible actions couldn't convey. To the onlooker, he seems fearless, but that's not what's in his head, and we get to see that, and so he becomes more relatable and understood and deeply complex. Don't sympathize with Bruce or he'll break you. Another superhero who is equally popular and employs the same method is Spider-Man. Fabian believes that we see him swinging around and bemoaning his life and predicament, trying to make sense of it all and justify his actions. And since we don't see Superman do this as much, this is where his theory tends to go. We see Superman say things like, "Great row," or "Those people are in danger," or "Kryptonite feeling weak." But there's no inner dilemma. Sure, Superman's invulnerable, but Batman can take down any man one-on-one. Superman's fears are not of his own, but for the safety of others. The ramifications of his actions in media and politics and society. Superman and the Death of Superman arc, where Superman overhears the cries of a boy in a burning house. The JLA are incapacitated and Doomsday is within arm's reach, and Superman weighs in his thoughts the ramifications of letting Doomsday get away to save the boy and his family. It's gripping. This is Clark's sense of urgency, and it makes him less relatable because none of us can feel that way. Now, these are Fabian's thoughts, and what I would say to this is, what I'm speaking of is the general public. Much of this may be the case for people who read comics or people who think this way in terms of comic books, but most of the general public doesn't read comics and isn't really familiar with how Batman is monologuing versus how Superman is monologuing. So I would say that possibly within comic circles this makes Batman more interesting to read, although I've heard many people say that they get annoyed by thought bubbles that are explaining things that are going through his head or explaining actions, because comics are a visual medium and we should be able to see what is happening and understand his feelings by the look on his face. I wouldn't agree with that completely, because I think that, as you say, Fabian, that monologues definitely improve our feeling of empathy toward a character, because we get to see everything that he is thinking. We get to read it. We get to see it. Fabian continues and says that with the New 52, it seems even worse, and that a lot of the action or a lot of what's going on is being described in story format, say in the Superman books, story for the Daily Planet, possibly written by Clark, but it still doesn't seem to be the exact same thing. With the first issue of Superman, we see Clark walking in on Lois and her new boyfriend, and we see that it has emotional resonance and that Clark is upset. But Fabian says that it would have been really engaging on a more personal level if we were able to really hear what he was thinking due to thought bubbles. So I would say that that is possibly a good reason if we're talking about comic books. But if we look at movies, television, animation, why I still say is it that Batman is seen so much more and shown as so much a stronger character more often than any of the members of the Justice League, and why does it seem that children and adults alike seem to agree that Batman is more relevant. The question still stays open. Stump me if you can. I don't believe that there's an actual answer, because I, of course, think Superman's the coolest. But in Fabian's words, I'll close this great edition of Great Scott by saying, in Gotham, look up in the sky. It's a cloud of acid. It's a blimp. No, it's the bat signal. Always remember, everybody, look up in the sky.